My 24F best friend, 25M, is starting to scare me and I don't know what to do. I just want to say I hope I'm in the right thread for this. I just don't know where else to go. For context, I, 24F, have been friends with, we'll call him Ryan, 25M, for 10 years. We've never been anything more than friends or tried. He's even lived with us for a few years because of some stuff going on with his parents. I've seen the best and worst of him and vice versa, which has made us super close. After high school we both went to college, separate colleges, and got our degrees, always coming home on holiday to my folks' house. We stayed in touch, FaceTimed weekly, and maintained a great friendship. Nothing seemed to be different until I came back from my 4-year degree. He'd already been finished with his degree 2 years prior, and started living at home again while looking for a job. He's also living at my parents' because they've basically stepped up to that role now and he helps with paying bills and such. The other day I went to ask him about how much would be a fair contribution from me since my parents said he's taken on the brunt of the utilities and found him counting stacks of money. I mean stacks. Last I heard Ryan worked as hired security, which is a good job but not something I imagined paid that well. I didn't want to be snoopy or anything, so I just said something like, "Dang, you got to hook me up with a job at your place." It was supposed to be like a lighthearted joke or whatever, but he got really mad at me. He didn't yell, but he definitely raised his voice telling me to stay out of what he does. I was freaked because we'd never had an altercation like that before and got out of there pretty quick. He ended up apologizing a few hours later, saying he lost his cool and that he didn't think security would fit me very well. It was weird, but I let it go because it was the first time it had ever happened. Before college I used to go on jogs pretty frequently, so I picked that back up when I came back, and within a day of resuming jogging Ryan would come with me on all of my jogs. Literally every single one. Even if I decided to stay up until 11 at night, he demanded to come jogging, saying it wasn't safe around town anymore. Since he'd been back for 2 years I figured he would know and just chalked it up to him being basically an overprotective brother. After a few weeks he started looking over his shoulder all the time during the jogs and making me really nervous. I ended up asking him about it and he basically said, "You can never be too careful?" Then about 2 months ago I heard him and my dad fighting, like a all-out screaming fight, in the garage. I couldn't hear what they were saying because it was so incoherent through the walls, but my mom clearly thought it was normal because we were sitting in the kitchen and she looked like nothing was even happening. I asked her if we should break it up and she just said that they get like that sometimes. Since when? It's like I was gone 2 years and the dynamics of everything shifted, but I'm the only one left out of the loop. When I went to go into a city nearby my dad told me to bring Ryan with, just in case. Just in case what? I sked and he said the world was a messed up place and he would feel better if I didn't go into big cities alone. Fast forward to a week ago I got in an argument with my mom over something really dumb and decided to let off steam by going for a jog, in the middle of the day mind you. I was halfway home and Ryan just pulls his car up beside the road and demands that I get in. I asked him why and he told me to shut up and get in the car. It was terrifying. The look he gave me and just I don't know, the anger? I could feel how mad he was. I don't even know how to describe it, like I felt it in my gut. I pulled out my phone to call my dad and told him I'd just get him to pick me up if something was wrong, and he basically cornered me into his car. He stepped out, came around the car, and herded me into it by forcefully leading me. I was in tears by the time we got home. I told my mom what happened and she scolded me for going out alone. What the is going on? Should I just find an apartment? Or confront them? I feel like I'm somehow being held prisoner in my own home without explanation? My dad took my keys and I'm afraid they're going to try to take my phone next. I don't have a job yet, but I have money saved, and we live pretty far out of town. Suggestions please? And #X200B. Update. I didn't expect to get so much help. My parents are definitely conservative, but they have a BLM flag outside their house, so I don't think they've bought into the evil BLM sentiment that goes around in those groups. So I talked to my dad last night. I asked him to go get food and he said no at first, saying it was too late, 9 p.m. The car was acting up. He didn't want to leave my mom alone, even though Ryan was there, etc. Eventually he said yes when I said I was going to get food regardless and thought he'd like to know. The car was really awkward, but once we got far enough away from home I told him I know something is going on. I didn't know what it was, but that it obviously affected me or had the potential to, and that I needed to know the details. He flat out refused, basically yelled at me for prying into his life and not trusting him to handle whatever it was. I told him I'd contacted a friend to come pick me up today and that I didn't feel safe being there anymore. The car ride was awkward before and downright unbearable after that. We got food, but even the lady at Mickey D's asked if I was doing okay, so I really must have looked miserable. Instead of going straight home, he parked in the lot and just sat there staring out the window but not talking to me. He eventually asked if my friend was coming for sure, and I said yes, that she was planning on coming by that next morning. He said he felt bad I didn't feel safe, etc., etc., etc. But still wouldn't give me any information about what is going on. I tried one last time saying that I just needed to know if they were safe or if I could help them get out of what they were doing, but he dismissed it, saying that they weren't in any trouble and that I was overreacting and the town just wasn't what it used to be. He asked me to postpone my friend coming until the day after because my mom would want to say goodbye and so would Ryan, and that I owed them that because they were family. It felt like he was just trying to make me feel bad, but it kind of worked because I don't want to hurt my mom's feelings and I still plan on leaving. He no doubt told my mom and Ryan last night, and I haven't seen them yet this morning, so that's something I'm not looking forward to. So I'm here another day to say goodbye, and then I'm going off with my friend for a few days since she lives pretty close to the city. IDK what I'll do after that, I guess start looking for a job in the city or maybe a few cities over and get an apartment or something. I'll update when I'm in the big city, but otherwise a pretty boring update, sorry guys. Sounds to me like your parents and this friend are involved in something illicit together. It also sounds like they've been threatened by someone, and that threat extends to you, but they're keeping it from you. At the very least, they are keeping something big from you. Okay, I'm a typically pretty lenient commenter who likes to consider all sides of a situation. But this is pretty alarming. I don't know what city you're in, but I'm thinking drugs or weapons dealing. Weed and the like is not a big deal at all, but if he feels unsafe just like walking around, that makes me wonder who is after him, aka not weed distributors. I would have a serious conversation with him. I would even potentially delete this post if it poses a security risk. If need be, extricate yourself. Good luck. 100% get out and get your own place. I'd try moving to a different city. Sounds like some gang-type shit. Stacks of money plus paranoia equals meth. I think I would a talk with dad alone. Tell him your concerns, ask him, are you really danger? Based what you are saying, something is off. That sounds terrifying. Is there any friends you could stay with from school? I would tell your family you landed a great job in a different city and get out of there. I knows it's easier said than done, but there are too many red flags here to ignore. Tell your dad you need to know what's going on or you're moving out. It 100% sounds like some gang shit. Something's definitely not right here, and it's probably a good idea to get out of this situation as quickly as possible. Once you're out, you can talk to your parents about it and see what's happening from their perspective. But your friend sounds like he's really controlling and may be involved in something illegal. There's no reason for you, a grown woman, to not be able to go out midday for a jog or into town by yourself. The rest of this story is crazy too, but that part in particular is just super controlling and crazy weird. Has anyone in an age gap relationship ever regretted it years later? I'm a 25F and my boyfriend is 41 years old with 2 kids. Right now I'm really attracted to him and we have a great relationship, but everyone keeps telling me that in a few years he'll look old and ugly to me and I'll want someone closer to my age. My mom keeps warning me that 10 years down the line he'll be old and I'll regret my choices. Thoughts? Has anyone regretted an age gap relationship years later? I did. And yes, I missed out on so much, grew up quicker cause I was a stepmother. And he left me when he turned 50 for someone more age appropriate. That hurt. I was too emotionally immature in many ways. Though I was a grown-up and hugely responsible on many other levels. I don't hate him, I appreciate the time we spent together and the life lessons I learned. But if I had my time over, no, I would not marry him. I would choose someone my age and without kids. Though I love his children and they are closer to me than they are to him. Man's old enough to be your dad. He's also in a completely different life stage from you. Do you really want to be a stepmom right now? You do you, but from the outside it seems like a really strange choice. There's more to a relationship that he's still attractive to me right now. My regret had more to do with the stepmom gig than the age difference in my last relationship, even though he was 10 years older. Dating someone with kids is extremely hard, and parents need to constantly balance the needs of the kids and the needs of the relationship. It's hard to be a great parent and a great partner. My ex was terrible at it, and while I grew a lot in our relationship, I feel like I wasted a lot of time and effort on a family that I was never going to truly belong to. Being a step-parent is a lot of heartbreak, and I wouldn't do it again as a childless woman. It's simply not worth it. My in-laws have a 25 age difference and Mill gets depressed frequently because she wants go on adventures, hang with friends, travel to see grandkids, but she can't because my Phil can't travel well anymore and he can't do much besides watch TV and read. She feels trapped and it really messes with her. She would warn anyone about to marry someone so much older. When my husband was growing up she loved it because Phil was stable, successful and they got to travel to some really amazing places. Yes. I regret it very much and it informs everything I do and say on Reddit about age gaps. It was a horrible mistake. He started off fine, and then he started acting like he was my father and belittling my age. Oh, you're too young, you don't understand. That were actually not the worst qualities, even, out of the bag oh shit I got. He was controlling. Narcissistic. He would compliment other women in front of me and stare them down. He was constantly begging for a threesome. We didn't have a good sex life because of the etc. It is not about looks fading. It is the fact he is in a different life stage. He will want to stay home more and more. He won't try new things. He will require medical care as he ages. Want to be homebound in 20 years caring for him? He will less and less interested in sex and affection as his sex drive drops naturally. Trust me, you get less and less of what you signed up for. You will wish you had chosen someone closer to your age. I am there. I seriously regret all the much older men I dated. They only dated me because I was naive, though I didn't think I was at the time. That's why most older men date younger women. Because they are the only ones who still don't know better yet than to put up with their nonsense. Learn about power imbalances in relationships. That's usually the real issue. Yes. This board is full of stories of people who looking back realized they were so sure they were right at the time, but should have listened to the loud chorus of people in their lives who disagreed. It's pretty uncommon for everyone who loves you to agree on something and be wrong. Should I tell my ex-fiancé's dad that my ex-fiancé was physically abusive? I recently called off my wedding because my ex-fiancé was becoming extremely abusive. I am currently in therapy because I've been getting panic attacks and not sleeping well. I'm even on antidepressants now. My ex and I ended cordially and he wants to remain friends. I thought remaining friends would help me with my healing because there would be no hostility putting stress on me. I also feel like I can slowly ease him out of my life with there being no tension by just putting more and more distance between the times we talk. However, our friendship is making things worse for me. He called me the other day to see how I was doing and I was honest with the fact that my mental health has been trash lately, and when I asked him how he's doing he said he's been great. I asked him if he plans on getting counseling and he says he doesn't need it. He's going to just become involved in the community and grow closer in his faith. Although both of those are great, I genuinely think he needs help, but I left the subject alone because I am no longer interested in pursuing any type of romantic relationship with him. It also bothers me how well he seems to be doing, whereas I'm over here completely traumatized over the situation to the point where I don't know if I ever want to get married again. Anyways, he says his father is going to be calling me just to check up on me because what would be our wedding date is around the corner. I thought that was really sweet of his dad to think of me. Right now, I am lying in bed at 5:30 a.m. just wondering if I should tell his father the truth, my truth, of why I called off the wedding. My family has heard my side, however the story he told his folks is a completely watered-down version. He told them, we were having issues with communication and fighting a lot. Which is true, however that is not even the biggest issue we had. The issue is that he was physical with me. My mom thinks I should just keep things light with his dad because this could get back to my ex and cause more issues. However, I feel like I need to say something to at least one of his parents just in case this happens again with another girl. From what I've seen with physically abusive men, that type of aggression doesn't just go away. At least if I say something his parents will be more inclined to believe the next girl if it does happen again. What should I do? Say something or not say something? I would say if he asks, there is no reason to lie. Also, as much as I get wanting to stay friends to relieve stress, I almost feel like it would be more stressful. I would have panic attacks about them calling or having to see them. Also, the fact that he calls to brag about how well he is doing is a form of manipulation as well. Could this be part of the reason your mental health is bad at the moment? Maybe try no contact for your own mental health? Personally, I wouldn't hide the fact that he was abusive by not telling the truth of it. He can live largely without repercussions and actually addressing it both for yourself and the next woman. However, you don't know where he learned his abusive behavior from, so his dad could be that person. Potentially fair warning. Also, I would personally go no contact with the ex either way after this encounter. If he asks, tell him the truth. Don't sugarcoat it or exaggerate. Be blunt. Please read Lundy Bancroft's Why Does He Do That? You're wisely leaving an abusive man. It's not your fault and you don't owe him friendship. Would you be more selective when choosing friends knowing about their abusive side? If you would, then he is not really a friend material. What you probably want is to avoid angering him, and that means you are changing your behavior for him. You are still being abused, forced to stay in contact. So maybe don't tell anything to his dad as you afraid it might put you in danger. At least not yet, while you are still so vulnerable and healing. And surely be more picky about who are your friends. This is just me, but when I hear things like, get more involved in the community and deeper into my faith, it means he's going to ignore his issues and find ways to justify his feelings that his behavior was correct, and then find a new girl, tell bad stories about you to gain sympathy, and then start the manipulation and abuse all over again. It's just been my experience both personally and from friends. Why are you still in touch with someone who hit you? People like this deserve to be identified, and then isolated. No friends. No support. They thrive on having no consequences for their behavior. People in your lives should all know what he's capable of. Stop protecting him. Stop asking him about therapy. That's no longer your concern. And stop telling him about your slow or non-progress. He hit you because it makes him happy to see you beaten down, cowering, and now you reveal your declining mental condition to him? If his dad brings up your cancelled wedding, tell him it's because his son abused you. Don't allow them to romanticize your almost wedding day as if it's something wonderful. It didn't happen because of him. Say something. His dad may be able to convince him to get anger management therapy. My boyfriend's crazy ex-girlfriend was 16. I'm 20F, boyfriend is 23M, and I'm losing my fucking mind. He used to tell me all about his crazy ex who once made his phone die with her text notifications, refused to go on the pill, accused him of cheating with her sister, and tried to kill herself after they broke up. Usually I'm weary of guys with crazy ex-girlfriend stories, but she actually sounded nuts. She DM'd me on Instagram telling me she's his ex, and she's been in therapy and she realized their relationship was actually him taking advantage of her. She said she feels like it's her responsibility to tell me. According to her story, they met when she was 15 and hanging out with older friends. She said she and him started texting and they went on a few dates. They made out and he taught her how to give a blowjob and he would finger her. She said that they only started having PIV sex once she was 16, which is the age of consent where we live. She said he was really nice to her when he wanted sex, and then he'd ignore her until he wanted to have sex with her again. Apparently he'd assure her he loved her when she'd get upset by buying her something and taking her out on an expensive date again. She told me at one point he paid for her to have an abortion, and then after that he broke up with her and she tried to kill herself. I was very worried. I generally believe the victim, so I comforted her for a bit and approached him about it. He said that her story is missing context. He said when they met he assumed she was around his age and he asked her out on some dates. I feel like her age would have come up, at least high school or something. He says it didn't. I asked why they only had sex when she was 16 if he didn't know, and he said he just didn't see her regularly enough until then. He said if he was waiting for the age of consent, why would he let her blow him or finger her? IDK. He said that he was a bit scummy with her, she annoyed him, but he felt the sex and attention was too good to break up, which he admits he was wrong for. And he says after he paid for her abortion he felt so guilty and realized he was using her. He broke up with her and promised never to do it again, which led to our relationship. I know he's never treated me like that, but this feels like a deal breaker for me. I just kind of want to know, what's the consensus on this? Is the past in the past in this case? I'm lost. No normal 20-something-year-old has sexual relations with kids in high school. I would seriously run the other way. Plus he clearly wasn't waiting until she was 16 to have oral sex. That's statutory rape right there. Edit. Wording. That'd be a hard and fast nope from me. I'd be out. Don't want to date a guy that hooks up with children. I think he's also a liar. He never asked about her life, so didn't know she was in high school? I'd love to know what age of consent statute you think makes blowjobs okay when PIV isn't. If he did it once, he will do it again. No 22-23-year-old really believes a 15-16-year-old is an adult. So he's either a creep that groomed her, took advantage of her, and made efforts to try and keep it legalish, or he's a creep that pressured a totally inexperienced girl into sex and was so disinterested in anything else about her that he didn't realize she was a minor? Pretty sure he broke the law. At a minimum, he was morally in the red. He manipulated and coerced a minor into sex. Emotionally abused her to get what he wanted and then dumped her. In short, he's a creep and not a good person. What really sticks out is him trashing his ex as being crazy, knowing she was 15-16 when they dated, her being an actual child at the time. Truly concerning at the least. The sex was so good, nauseated face, nauseated face, nauseated face. Would be a dealbreaker for me. I think he is denying that he knew about her age, 'cause he knows that's fucked up. You could ask the girl for confirmation. But anyways, he was able to be a big hole at what age? In his 20s, behavior which would already be considered problematic for a teenager, but perhaps more explainable, since puberty and being young and dumb.